Hello, I am Mudita, and welcome back to Satisfactory. In my 1.0 playthrough, I'm at the end game, and I'm getting ready to build my final power plant. However, to make that much power, I need more power. Does that sound familiar? I don't want to spend too much time on a temporary power plant that I'm going to end up deleting. Which led me to create a simple blueprint that contains everything I need to generate 2500 megawatts. This does require the Mark III blueprint designer, although you can easily make it 2 blueprints in the Mark II designer. Let's jump right into it. And here is the really simple flow chart of what I'm creating. This is going to take 75 crude oil and 200 water. It'll turn the crude oil into heavy oil residue, and then combine that with the water using the diluted fuel recipe and create 200 fuel per minute, which is exactly enough to run 4 completely overclocked fuel generators. And here we are on the Spire Coast, where I'll give you a demonstration at the end. But here's basically what we're working with. So, like I mentioned, this all fits in a Mark III. However, you can easily make this in just 2 pieces, although you do have to make a couple more connections if you're using the Mark II blueprinter. The fact that you can make this in just 2 blueprints is still really nice. And all 3 of these will be available on my Google Drive. Yeah, surprised the heck out of me that that actually fits in here. Sure doesn't look like it should, but it works. Alright, so let's run through the blueprint and then I'll show you how to make it. It starts here with the refinery, so the crude oil gets plugged into here. It'll intake 75, output 100 heavy oil residue, and does have a byproduct of 50 polymer resin that we will have to take care of. That heavy oil residue just comes out along here and plugs right into our blender. We'll combine the heavy oil residue with the 200 water, and then I'll output our 200 fuel. The blender is using the diluted fuel recipe overclocked to 200%. And then we just need to plug in the water here. The fuel will then flow down here to the bottom floor. All 4 of the fuel generators are going to be fully overclocked to 250%, so each one puts out 625. And so each set of these will output 2500. For the power connections, I just have them right underneath. And then when it comes time, I'm going to manually plug up the fuel generators because I like to let all of the fluids back up. And then with the Mark II, I just had to split the 2 levels so you can fit all the fuel generators in one blueprint. And then I was able to add the floor, and then you just need to have a separate one with just the machines and the pipes. And then you'll have to manually connect the power, and then you'll have to connect this to the floor hole that's going to be just like right around here somewhere. But let me just clear this out and let me show you how you can do this really quickly. And we're going to start with our fuel generators, so they do need to be facing in. And if you're working with the Mark III blueprint designer, you can basically just go half a foundation in on both sides. If you're working with the Mark II, it's going to go all the way to the edge. So once you place one down, you can basically just snap all the rest of them together. So they're all going to face in. And now what you want to do is take your pipeline and go ahead and just connect these. And now all we need to do is grab another pipeline junction, and we can just place it right here. And we can get that snap right into the middle. And that one in the middle. And then we can connect these 2. And then since this one is going to be coming up from directly above, for whatever reason, if you place this right in the middle, if it's horizontal, it'll snap to where you want. Once you change it to vertical, it's 1 meter off. So to account for that, just go ahead and nudge it over 1 meter. And now that's where I want it. And now that's directly in the middle. And we're done with this floor. And now what I can do is go ahead and place a foundation here, and I'm going to zoop it up 7 foundations. And now I'm going to grab a 1 meter, and because this isn't in quite the right spot, I'm going to nudge it into place. So now we should be able to take up that 5x5 space. The only reason you need the Mark III designer over the Mark II, because this fits in a 5x5 area, it's this that you need the extra height. Alright, and then that floor hole is going to go directly in the center. That pipe is going to connect to there. Now there is no clipping, but it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for your smokestacks. So since this is a temporary factory, I just didn't care. And to get it to all fit within one blueprinter, you don't really have much of a choice. However, if you're going to do this on the Mark II, you could easily go up a few more meters if you wanted to give the smokestacks a little bit more space. Just keep in mind, if you go up too high, you're going to need more pumps to get the water and the oil up there. Let's go ahead and start with the refinery. I think it's because of the smokestacks, you don't actually have a ton of places you can place this. It's got to be more or less right here in the middle. And so right here in the middle, and let's go ahead and just nudge it back just a little bit. That's enough space. So I line it up with this foundation and then nudge it back 1 meter. And then for the blender, I also want the inputs facing this way. And I want it lined up on the second foundation. And this input's going to be right here on the edge of the two foundations. We can go ahead and set our recipes. This is heavy oil residue, set to 250%. And this one is our diluted fuel, only to 200. And that way our numbers all match up. We can do our easy little pipe work here. All right, so to start with the crude oil, what I'm gonna do, I think this makes it easiest, just give myself a temporary foundation. I want it to go up just high enough to go over the water pipes that are gonna be in the way. And at that distance, I get a nice little curve into here, and I'm just gonna use carbon steel for my oil. And that's oil taken care of. On this side, let's go ahead and get the merger out of the way. So with the merger, I'm going to place it right here, and here's where you can decide if you want things to go out to the right or to the left. This is something that you can really easily change. If you change your mind when you get to the location, just load up the blueprint designer and flip it from one side to the other. But at this distance, fits in real nicely, and I can just color this blue because this will be the polymer resin. I'm just going to link these all together and send them into a sink. Now that I have the lift, I know where the pipe can go to miss it, basically, since even though it's temporary, I don't want to clip all that together. So let's go ahead and just snake it through here. So we're going to miss that floor hole, and I think we should be able to plug it right there. Nope. Let's try that again. Let's go from here. There we go. And let's color all this purple and that one purple, since this is all heavy oil residue. Terrific. As far as the water, I'm just going to pull this pipe straight out and color it blue. For the final product, for whatever reason, the output on blenders is just a ½ meter off, and it always drives me nuts. So the easiest way to get around this is, let's get it just in the right spot. So I know that it needs to go 2 meters back from that line so that it makes the nice 90-degree angle. And then if I hold control and do a half nudge, I can get the pipe to be a nice straight line, or about as straight as I'm going to get it. And there we go. And there's the output. And then as far as the power goes, I just have that struck down straight through there. And then same with this. It's going to go right there. And now they'll be able to easily connect. But even though it's temporary, I don't really like to just make things floating. So what I did is I just took the small frame pillars and I just zooped these up from the ground. And then that way, at least it's somewhat supported. Obviously, you don't have to, or you could add more if you want. But for me, this is all temporary. Once I'm able to get nuclear up and running, this is all just going to get deleted. Well, let's go ahead and test this out. Since we're out here in the Spire Coast and there's plenty, I went ahead and just grabbed one pure oil node, and I've already got the pump attached right there. That just snakes along, and we've already got the oil out to here. I just need my quick 2.5 gigawatt blueprint. I went ahead and laid down a bunch of 5x5 grip metal blueprints, and the nice thing with these is that's the exact size of this blueprint. I'm still able to place 8 of these fairly quickly in my world, but 720 motors is definitely more than what you can hold at once. If you have your dimensional depot completely upgraded, you're going to empty it about 3 times to get that many motors. Other than that, everything else was fairly easy and pretty quick to reload for me. If you don't have a bunch for copper sheets, that may be a lot, same with the rubber, so just keep that in mind. I left them as Mark 1 pipes because if I only need Mark 1, I like to just leave them as Mark 1. However, for this example, I'm going to upgrade all these to Mark 2. And because it already has one pump and this isn't high enough to need a second one, the oil will go ahead and keep flowing. So now I just need to deal with the water. And for this, I laid it out so that it's pretty easy. All I need is just one more foundation right below each of these pipes. And these will need a pump. And I'm aiming for the halfway mark in between the edge and the middle. So I guess the quarter mark of the foundation. And then line it up with the center line. And now with the pump here, it gives the water extractor something to snap to. And so if I lock it in place, I won't be able to nudge it, but I can kind of get an idea how far away it needs to be based on the height difference. And so ideally, you'd probably be 1 meter lower, and that would make this quite a bit straighter. But we're just going to go with right about there, looks fine. And now we can basically just line these all up. And now I'm going to go back to horizontal to vertical to do the last pipe. And so if I lock this in place, with that spacing, you get nice right angles. Now, the one thing you don't want to forget to do, which I just did, is all the polymer resin. And so we're going to go ahead and connect all of these. And at the very end of the line here, I'm just going to add on an awesome sink. So I have 8 machines. They're each producing 50. That'll be 400. So we just need to mark 4. And that'll let all the refineries keep on running. I'm just going to let all the machines run until they all back up with all of their fluids completely full. Now, the nice thing with fuel generators is they won't run until you have a power connection to it, but they can still fill up the machine even though they don't have a power connection. Whereas every other machine, you need to at least connect it to power for it to start receiving any of its goods. This works out really well when you're starting up a fuel power plant. All right, everything has shut off because everything is backed up just all the way even back to the water extractors. We are just completely full. Which don't forget to overclock these to 200 water per minute or else this will take longer to start up than it needs to. All right, now that everything's clocked the way it's supposed to be, the way I like to do this is to turn on basically 1/2 of everything first. So I'm going to turn on the back generators, and then I'm going to go through and turn on the front ones. This will basically just get all of the machines up and running, even though they'll only be running at, say, 50% for the first minute or two. All right, it looks like everything is pretty much leveled out. So with all the overclocking, the total power to create this is just over 2,300, and it'll create 20,000 megawatts. So that's why I really love this blueprint, is each one of these will intake 75 crude oil. So that means 2 of these will be 1 impure node, because 1 impure completely overclocked is 150. A completely overclocked normal node would be 4 of these, because that would be 300. And then all 8 would be 1 pure node, and that'll give you 20,000 megawatts. As I mentioned before, these blueprints will be available for free on my Google Drive. There will be a quick 2.5 gigawatts, and then there will be 2 that are a Part A and a Part B. So if you only have the Mark II Blueprint Designer unlocked, no worries. You can actually use any of them, but if you want to be able to edit them, you need to be able to load it up in the blueprinter it was created in, thus the 2 different blueprints. So if you want to add more to it, by all means, I hope this helps out or inspires you to create some more blueprints of your own. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions for any of these other future videos, please leave them in the comments below. I'll look forward to reading those. And thanks for watching.